If you read the title, you already know why we're here, everybody. Welcome back. This is the second Friday in a row, breaking down every single Survivor winner from worst to best. Today, we're talking about, I'm not going to lie, some of the average winners in Survivor history. I'm joined by some of your favorite content creators online. But instead of me just talking to myself, I'm going to let my fancy intro do the rest. Ranking every Survivor winner from worst to best with the biggest collab in Survivor YouTube history. Bringing your favorite content creators together, 11 different YouTube channels, 4 separate live streams. Finding out once and for all who is the best. We need to remember this is the average ranking of 11 Survivor YouTube channels. Well, technically 9 Survivor YouTube channels, 1 Big Brother YouTube channel, and 1 Hell's Kitchen YouTube channel. The rules are simple. We have 44 different winning Survivor games to work with. Everyone separately ranks the winners from worst to best. The worst winner was given 1 point and the best winner 44 points. I then put all the math together to come up with the best winner rankings of all time. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. All your favorite content creators were told the same thing. Rank these winners however you like and whatever you value most. Outwit, outplay, outlast, we have it all. There we go. We do have it all, chat. I'm so excited to be back live again. No Life Gang. Yeah, what's up? The greatest org player ever, Blaze, is excited to see Gumball in here. Org player. We'll see what happens. No spoiler alert. We don't know who's in this panel yet. So, chat, here's the deal. We got ranked 33rd best to 23rd best today. So, please, before we give all the rankings away, let me know who you don't want to see today. We're talking about some of the most average winners in Survivor history. Who do you want us to be saving for part 3 next week? So anyways, as always, we're joined by my co-host, Flynnmasters. Flynn, how is it going?
It's going well. Yeah, last week was super fun. And this week, I know these are average winners, yes, but that makes them interesting to talk about because some people might have a couple, think they should be above average or even like really should have been last week's podcast. So yeah, this should make very interesting discussion. A lot of controversial winners here to talk about as we'll get into. And yeah, I'm super excited, especially with the panel we have tonight, as you'll introduce here in a second.
Exactly. And you know what? This may be some average winners, but Chad, don't worry. This is not going to be an average podcast, an average stream for us today. Coming up next, I don't even know what time it is for him. Please give him a round of applause, some W's in the chat. We got Bandit Survivor here. How's it going?
Thank you, Russell. Can I just have you as like my wingman in Northern Ireland? That was such a great introduction, just my own personal one. But thank you so much for having me on here. Episode 1 was a blast, and hopefully everyone that's watching live or after the live is contributing, is saying about their winners and what their rankings might be, and just enjoying the show.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure we're going to get into all of it. Thank you so much for, what time is it, your time right now?
It is currently 1:30, so we might be running into 2 or 3 a.m.
We'll try our best to get as late as possible for you. Next up, I've always wanted to ask this question. Why Gumball?
Oh,
nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to have you all here. So my name goes back quite a bit actually, and despite my profile picture, it's actually not even named after Adventure Time. It's actually named after the Amazing World of Gumball. Way back when the show first came out when I was 13. It was probably the first show I ever wrote fan fiction for, first show I ever read fan fiction for, and it was sort of at the point in my life where I was starting to have a bit more of an online presence and stuff. And I was writing fanfics one day and I need a name. So and I was kind of uncreative. The website I was writing sites fanfics for, they went by, I think it was Gumball Fan 2. So I very much, since I was so uncreative at the time, I was okay, I'll just call myself Gumball 2. And then that story has stuck ever since. And it's 12 years later, I'm still going by that name. So that's where that came from.
There you go. If you were wondering, fun fact there. Thanks for being with us here tonight to talk about some Survivor winners. And last but not least, joining us from the Survivor Now community, this dude just loves to be super early. If you guys didn't know, he was 45 minutes early to the stream today, so he's all ready to go. We got David from the Survivor Now community. How's it going?
Great. We shouldn't call it Survivor Now. We should call it Survivor T-45. I was also told to make the disclaimer that my opinions do not reflect those of the entire Survivor Now community, although they should, because mine are so much better than everyone else's. So super excited for tonight.
I want to cause as much drama here as possible. So yeah, your opinions are the right opinions here today. So we went over the same thing last week, but we got new panelists here today. So I want to ask them that exact same question. Chat, if you're unaware, as we were making these Survivor winner rankings, I told everyone, come up with these rankings however you want. For me personally, maybe a little bit more physical game, maybe a little more chaos. I was tempted. I mean, I didn't put Chris Underwood last place because he doesn't deserve it. We're not going to get into that again this week. So I want to hear why everyone ranked, how they went about ranking their winners, and we'll start with you, Bandit.
So, Russell, how aware are you of British culture?
My grandparents are British.
Very good. So we're very last minute. So the thing I always imagine, the analogy is my mate, he's knocking on the door. I open it up and he says, I've applied for Survivor, but I've no idea what it is. And I'm going out in 48 hours. And so basically I have to tell him these winning games and these strategies that are used in the games that can be replicated by other individuals, some strategies that you use to revolutionize the game, and just overall strong gameplay that they use to propel themselves into that winner status. So hopefully that answers your question.
There we go. Perfect. Yeah. And Gumball, what about you? How'd you go about these rankings?
Pretty straightforward. I'm basing off gameplay. So like how much control did you have over the course of the season? How many like mistakes did you make? Like how optimal were you playing given your circumstances? I tried my best to be objective here, though there's definitely going to be some disagreement here.
Yeah, that's what we live for, the disagreements. And then David, how'd you do your rankings?
I created a point system. It was based on some things that were pretty objective, like challenge wins, but it also factored in things like personal preference, final tribal council performance, and just my general affinity for these people. So definitely pretty subjective overall.
I hope you go into that as we talk about all of these rankings. So we're going to get started here, guys, with number 33 ranked overall. Chat, let me know who you think this is going to be. But before we do, I do need to let you know at some point throughout the stream, as always, as we do these streams, we're going to be giving away the replica iconic Survivor Spencer 5-piece puzzle. So let's stay around if you want to try and win this iconic piece of puzzles. So, here we go. I'm ready to get started here. This person ranked 33rd overall from all our combined rankings. I ranked this person 29th overall. Flynn was way too high on this person, 12th overall. Gumball, 26th overall. David, I think way too low on this person, 41st overall. And then Bandit, 20th overall. So obviously, we're going to have a lot of discussion for this person. Let's just get right into it.
The winner of Survivor XL.
We got 41st overall against 12th overall. And then in the middle, 33rd. There's so much to talk about here with Aris's game, Survivor Exile Island. I think we should start on the low end first, David. 41st, one of the worst winners of all time. Give us all the hate you have for Aris.
I really don't hate Aris. It's more so that he really doesn't do much for me. I really appreciate his return on Blood vs. Water, but to be completely honest, I can't say that Aris really evokes anything strong here or there for me. I can't really think of anything bold he really did that stuck out. I really think he was the glue with Sari to keep Kasaya together, and I really appreciated that. And his feud with Terry was pretty entertaining, but I can't really think of anything super like game defining that I felt about Aris's game overall. And I also think he was willing to just bring Sari, potentially, if she had beaten Danielle in Fire, he could have ended up being clobbered by her in the final two. Who knows? He took her way too deep. So that's my general feeling on Aris. I still think he's a good guy, but not my fave.
Definitely not your fave. You got a bunch of 40 other people above him there. So on the absolute opposite end of the spectrum, going into this is the one of the conversations I was most excited to have with Flynnmasters, the Hell's Kitchen YouTuber. What does he know really about Aris's game? So let's hear it.
Well,
12th overall, come on.
Well, hey, I mean, considering he's literally 1 year older than I am, it kind of fits my archetype. Like, I could not imagine, being in that position, trying to And that's a good comment there. But trying to control the Kasai Alliance, and this guy, this fratty boy type yoga instructor, was indeed able to control all these crazy ass personalities in Kasai who all hate each other. And he was able to somehow keep this glue together throughout basically the entire post merge if it wasn't for Terry. You know, and a lot of people, and will never understand this about, you know, people knock Ars's game, be like, oh, if had Terry had lost immunity, he would have played the overpowered idol and he would have gone home. Well, you're really going to knock I saw that comment. You're going to knock his game doing an overpowered idol? Like, that just seems so unfair to me. And plus, we don't know. Maybe he would have split the votes. I know there was even talk about, and during one of the episodes, about indeed doing a save vote on like a Sally instead of like an Austin, for example, on that round. So we don't know what would have happened. And just in general, even if that would have happened, to knock him for going home due to an overpowered idol, to me just doesn't seem right. And the big thing is that, like some of the comments I've said so far, I'm not wrong. Like some of the comments I've said so far, is that he beats Suri. He beats all of Kasai at the end. And that is so impressive to me that they're willing to keep him around. And yet he beats all of Kasai at the end. He controlled Kasai and he beats everyone at the end. So, I mean, to me, he played a pretty much dominant game to me. I mean, not like super dominant being top 10, but a very dominant game. And again, while you can knock him for sure for being in trouble, do the idol, it just, to me, it's so unfair to knock, in my opinion, to knock him for it, even if you want to. But that's just my opinion.
So, my good friend, Survivor Gumball, can you please try to be the voice of reason here? I think we got way too low of a take and way too high of a take. Can you navigate this for me and try and put the pieces together of where Aris should properly rank and like talk about all of that?
Yeah, so I guess my take on Aris is like on one hand, like, yes, like he made a lot of like really kind of silly mistakes during the season. Like you have like that tribal early on where it's like it's between like, I think it was like the tribal where Melinda went home, where like he like told her to her face that he was going to vote her out. You have later on like the Bob Dog tribal where it's like he got into such a heated confrontation with Bruce, like that kind of felt unnecessary. You have like at the Final Four, like when he and Terry just randomly started arguing and like Terry just saw him as like this entitled like young person. Like I think there are definitely like issues with Aris's game. And I think in general, it's like it's sort of hard to like think of a move that he made on his own, but he was in the majority for most of the game. Like he was part of that Kasaya group. Like he was a pretty central figure within that. Like he was working alongside Suri for a lot of it. I wouldn't say he was like a dominant force within that. He was like more so like the figurehead for a lot of that group. Though at the same time, like I think he also got kind of lucky that Terry was there to begin with. Not so much because of like the idol, but the fact that Terry was just there, like winning immunity after immunity and just being like a force to keep like the Kasayas together. Because we saw like right before the merge that they were about to like crumble. Like Shane was getting fed up with like Danielle and like it seemed like that group was going to fall apart. Then they won that immunity challenge and they went on their reward. And then like they just became united enough to pagong a lot of the Laminas until it was just Terry. And then Terry was just like forcing them to like stick together and take out like the other Laminas along the way. I am on the side of thinking that Aris does beat Suri at the end. So I don't think that's much of an issue in him taking Suri all the way to the end. So I do give him a lot of credit for like aligning with Suri and managing to be in the majority there, being part of like a lot of those moves that were happening, like the 3-2-1. But at the same time, like I wouldn't say he's like the greatest player in the world. Like, again, he had all those unforced errors. And aside from that, like, I think he got kind of lucky that Terry was there, as I feel like otherwise he probably would be taken out due to be this big physical guy. So that's sort of my piece on Aris. And I think he's not the worst, but not the best.
And I think you're the voice of reason here, bridging these two gaps together. Bandit, so let's talk about, I think, one of the most interesting alliances of all time, the Kasaya Alliance. Breaking this all down, Gumball kind of mentioned this a little bit here, but how Aris was able to navigate it, did that help his game? Was this a fun alliance to look back on? Was it too much chaos? Give me your thoughts on Kasaya.
So Kasaya is probably the biggest dumpster fire of an alliance in Survivor. I mean, you have like Shane arguing with Suri, you have Courtney, you have Danielle, and they're going at it. But Aris, has already been said, is sort of like this glue figure for the tribe, keeps them together socially. Now, I will say is that he does have bonds with Suri that kind of helps him strategically through the game, particularly at the final 6 when he starts getting votes. But as already talked about, I feel like he beat Saray at the end. I think it's 3-3 with Bruce more than likely swinging to Aris, and I feel like the votes that Aris had were a bit more locked than Saray. But also you have to remember Aris went up against the God Idol, and if you think about the 2 other occasions in Survivor US, Yule had a God Idol and he used it to great effect, and it was integral to his winning game. And Tony had a God Idol and he obviously used it as being able to make big moves and have a fallback, and he used it as the Final Four Idol. So both of those people have won on the back of God Idols, and I think it's impressive that he went up against Terry, who also is this immunity beast with a God Idol, and was able to ultimately beat him and get his vote at the end.
I mean, talking about this, it's probably the perfect time to bring up our rapid fire question. Chat, if you don't know how this works, I have a rapid fire question for every single one of our winners we're going to be talking about. It's part of the rules. If you're watching this stream, you have to comment your answer to this rapid fire question, as I hopefully have one of my co-hosts here fumble through the words trying to answer the rapid fire question. Bandit, you're up. This one's kind of easy. I want a little more of an explanation from you, but chat, it'll be easier for you to answer it. Are you more with talking about of the powerful God Idol? Are you more Team Aris or Team Terry?
See, I would say Aris, just because I feel like Terry, he was on the bottom, he was making a few more social moves, and he kind of needed the immunity to win. And something that I find impressive about Aris is that people try to discredit him, saying that he received all these votes at the merge, but it's really only minority votes that he's receiving. It's usually Terry and another person. And he gets their votes at the end. He gets Terry's vote, he gets Sally's vote, he gets Austin's vote, he gets Courtney's vote, all who vote against him at the merge. So it's more so out of a respect thing and acknowledging Aris as a threat. But I also do understand that people are saying that, you know, Terry being this big challenge threat made Kasaya try to keep Aris around to be able to take him on in challenges, especially since Terry had the God Idol. So hopefully that's a good response.
Yeah, I like it. Thank you. And chat, thank you so much for getting involved here. We had I'm surprised we didn't have much Terry love. There we go. From Andrew Spellman there. Some Terry love. So much love for Aris on the back end of things. So let's move on to our next person here. Oh, I forgot one sec. Aris. Yay. We'll be doing that every single time. Number 32 overall in our rankings. I ranked this person the highest of everyone here today at 20th overall in my top 20. Flynn at 26th overall, Gumball 35, David 27, and Bandit 34. So please don't team up on me. Let's do it.
The winner of Survivor Marquesas.
The winner of Survivor Marquesas. What's there to hate? Why are you guys all haters here? So, I mean, I'm the host, so you're not allowed to team up on me. I'll just kick you out of the stream. So we're gonna start with you, Flynn, because you actually rank this person the best, other than me. So let's talk about Vesepia's game, and I want you to touch on briefly, like the element of Survivor, of the luck versus the skill going into the game for a winner.
Yeah, and that's excuse me. And that's the thing why I actually do have her so low, because as a player, Vesepia is probably up there, you know, one of the better overall players, right? Again, like I always said, she's really the first ever player in the minority to flip to the majority side and say, hey, she, you know, especially in old school Survivor, there's really nothing you do, idols and whatnot. That was really her only choice, and she understood where she was, hope for the best, and hey, she got the best. Luckily, she got the flip, right? But the problem is, you know, that's not sustainable, especially in old school seasons. You know, you can't always rely on that. But the big reason why I have her solo, because again, great overall player, part of the flip, her play at the final three was just amazing. The problem is that there was no fire this season. Of course, the rock draw just makes no sense. How production, you know, thought that'd be a good idea. How they didn't think of like a fire making or even just some type of challenge to have the two people who got votes go at it. So yeah, like if Kathy and Aaliyah go to fire, and let's say Kathy wins, well, it's Kathy, Vesepia, Pascal final three. She loses to both of those two. If Nalia wins, right, more than likely Nalia beats her at the final mini challenge. It takes Pascal to the end, and obviously she doesn't get to the end. So that's the thing. Had it not been for had it been any other season past this with the fire making challenge, I don't think she wins the game, right? So she got really, really lucky in her circumstances. Great player, all around player. I really trust her. But as a winning game, as much as I want to put her really high, I just don't think I can.
Well, there you go. We're gonna take a little quick break from Vesepia. We have a question for Bandit. Question for Bandit. How does he feel about the UK finally getting Survivor back on its TV screens?
Oh, I'm so excited. It's been 20 years now, especially after Survivor South Africa. We've had talks about it not continuing anymore. It felt like the baby between Survivor US and Survivor Australia. So hopefully Survivor UK can be like that. Hopefully the Brits can show that we can play Survivor as well. And I'm looking so forward towards it.
Super, super cool. We have a question here from Andrew, or not a question. Vecepia changed the game with the majority overthrow. And that was exactly the question I was going to ask for you, David. Let's kind of go over this majority overthrow of Vecepia. And do you think it changed Survivor, and kind of break down this whole insane move, in my opinion?
Oh my God, of course it did. This is the first time that something like this had happened in Survivor, and it set the groundwork for things like this to happen in the future. I think it gave hope to a lot of people in the future to say, well, now that there's this precedent that the minority can come together and overthrow, for example, the Row 2-4, then this can happen again. I think that a lot of it happened with a little bit of luck, and I think that if it was a different group of people, it may not have happened and played out the same way. And we don't really see a lot of similar things like this happen to the same extent. Like, we see things happen, but it's never going to be the same way that the Row 2-4 had their story told. They're quite a unique group, and I think that we got really lucky to see it the way that we did in Marquesas. And I feel like Marquesas gets like overlooked all the time, but it's super foundational, amazing season. And to talk about Vecepia for a hot second, I think, unfortunately, although she had some good confessionals, she was a strong player overall. I just don't think she had the same arc as Kathy. And I think that living in the shadow of Kathy is a disappointing, hard thing to do. But Kathy was such a magnetic, rootable character that when that's who you're up against, you're not going to be remembered as the biggest character of the season. It's going to be Kathy. So I think, unfortunately, Vecepia has just fallen prey to some maybe unfortunate editing, but also the fact that Kathy is just this larger than life personality.
And so, talking about that crazy flip, we have a player, a panelist here today who ranked Vecepia the lowest out of all of us here. We got Gumball. Why'd you rank her so low? She had so many good things happen. It changed Survivor forever, in my opinion. What happened?
Well, you're right. Like, Vecepia was part of the flip. However, I feel like when we look at like how the flip happened, I feel like Vecepia, I don't really give Vecepia as much credit for the flip happening to begin with. I feel like if you really look at how it came together, you had Nalia and Pascal. They were a clear duo. They came together and started to recognize that they were at the bottom of the Row 2 power structure, and that had that group gone all the way down, they probably were going to be on the outs. Kathy also recognized that she was also not within the core of the Row 2s if they had stuck together. So I feel like if we are looking at it, I would give more credit to them in terms of them. And obviously they were able to bring in Vecepia and Sean as being the last two people from the decimated Maramu tribe in order to do that. So I don't really know how much credit I can give Vecepia for that over anything else. But if we are going beyond that, like you have like at towards the end game, like I know like a lot of people like give her credit for the end game, and I give her credit in terms of her being cutthroat, where she wins Final Four immunity mainly on the back of her taking notes during the Fallen Comrades, which I give her credit for. Makes a deal with Kathy in order to get her through that round. Then at Final 3, she immediately backtracks on that, makes a deal with Nalia, is able to get to the end that way. I feel like that's something you have to give her credit for. But Kathy doesn't even vote for Vecepia at the end. It's not even like Kathy really respected that move from Vecepia. And really, like, even going to Final Tribal, like, it was so bad that they actually had to reshoot it because neither Vecepia nor Nalia were really owning it to their gains. And really, like, Vecepia's Final Tribal is pretty bad, but really the main reason she wins is that Nalia's was worse, to where it was a 4-3 vote. I feel like Nalia is probably the only person at the end that Vecepia wins of the people that got there, aside from, I don't know, I think Sean probably would have beat her too. But I feel like if we look at like these big highlights from our game, yeah, they are impressive in the sense that she was part of Survivor history. She was part of this flip. But I feel like I don't really know how much credit to give to Vecepia individually within that. And plus, like, even like her cutthroat nature at the end didn't really reward her too much. So I feel like those are things that are really holding me back from putting her much higher.
It's fair, but I think it's wrong. I think this. So spoiler alert, chat. Next up, we have a new era. So one of the newest era Survivor winners, 41 to 44. One of them's coming up next. So before we talk about a newer game, Bandit, I'd love to hear your thoughts on an old, not even just Vesepia, but let's obviously keep it on Vesepia here. But your thoughts on the older school Survivor wins versus what we have here today with new school.
So I think it's interesting about older school where obviously this is the first big flip in the game that happens. And, you know, you compare it to nowadays where flips are happening every single round. But I think it's interesting. I think it was a lot more like social based where like you had to have like really good connections with people. And now it's a bit more advantage based. There's things that are being thrown in. You have to kind of adapt to production. And it just seemed like a bit more of a simpler game at that stage.
Yeah. And so rapid fire question time, guys, for Vesepia. And we're going to give this one to Gumball here. I'm excited to hear your thoughts on this. Chat, I need to hear your answer. It's kind of mandatory. There's 35 of you in here. I need to see at least 10 of them. So we got, would you ever draw rocks? And then also, how do you feel about the rock draw and Vesepia drawing the rocks here? You kind of already answered that, but answer that one second. Would you ever draw rocks on Survivor?
No.
Whoa!
I feel like at the point where we're drawing rocks, like I feel like it's sort of hard to say, like, am I really going to sacrifice my game for one person? Like, and especially like for like most rounds, like it's like going to be before the end game, like before the final like 4 and stuff. And it's like there's just so much.
What about if it's millennials versus Gen X? You're at the final 10.
It's even worse.
I know.
I mean, you're not really giving me much reason here, Russell, but no, I would not use rocks in that situation because we saw like the game flipped the very next round. Like that game in general is like very fluid. So it's like I feel like that alone is a testament to the fact that, you know, like, yes, like while you are in a position to potentially lose an ally in certain cases, I feel like it's not really worth the risk of sacrificing my own game in that situation, because I feel like I would want to play a game where I would have enough connections to the rest of the players so that no matter what happens in that rock draw, I could potentially rebound in the future.
And correct me if I'm wrong about rock draws, but doesn't everyone have to agree to a consensus? So even if you disagree, you have to get every other person to disagree, and therefore there's a bit of social pressure. Like what happens if you're the only person that's saying, no, we shouldn't draw rocks, and everyone's going for rocks? You get flipped on like, well,
yeah. It's
well, I mean, in that case, it's a little bit different, but like, I guess I was thinking about it more in terms of, I guess I thought it was like in terms of like going into a revote, like assuming like the numbers would like hold together.
Okay.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
Revote happens first though.
Yeah.
Okay. So next up, we have number 31, a new school, a new era Survivor winner. But before we do that, let's talk about some of our favorite winners. Now, you don't have to talk about your favorite winner. For me personally, I mean, we already know who the GOAT of Survivor is. I'm not going to say the person's name. But in this, I want everyone to kind of give someone who we're not going to be talking about today your chance to defend one of your picks where you think this person got hated on a little bit too much, or this person, someone you just want to talk about that you don't get to talk about today. I don't know. Let's talk Survivor. Flynn, you're up first.
Well, like I said, I'll save that for when we do talk about him. But I know I'm very, very, as you'll see, I'm very, very, very high on Jeremy Collins' game. I know a lot of people are high on him, but I don't think they have him as high as I do. So I can't wait to like explain like why I have him like top tier as opposed to, you know, like a say like a top 10 game or even like a top tier. So I can't wait for that. Might be like the hottest take of like those obvious rankings.
David, defend one of your picks to the death.
Oh my God. So I am so excited to talk about Jenna Maraska because I think that she gets crapped on way, way, way too much. A 6-1 vote, very impressive. I would argue there's a good chance that she still beats Rob if he's there. I think that Jenna Maraska gets severely underrated. Do I think she's a top 10 winner? No.
Yes. Oh.
Not at all. Okay. But I really appreciate that. And I appreciate that every Survivor winner has won in the context of their season. Given the people who they were playing with those conditions, Jenna was the winner. And I think people need to look at every winner in context rather than trying to apply their win across the entire whole of Survivor, because that's just not gonna work. I disagree with the person who commented that Jenna would have lost against Rob. Very much so. We'll take that outside another time. But
I kind of want to hear more about this, but yeah, we'll save it for another time. Gumball, defend one of your picks as much as you can.
Alrighty. I'll defend Boston Rob. Like, I mean, I really like Boston Rob. Like, he's a really fun character. He's a really fun narrator. And I know a lot of people crap on his Redemption Island game, like, because it's like, oh, like Omotepe just did whatever he said. But at the same time, it's like the fact that he had like sole control over that entire game and the way like he was able to present it on TV, like, was really fascinating. Like, I know a lot of people don't like Redemption Island as a season, but like, he had a lot of funny moments, like throwing the idol in the volcano. Like, you have him talking through things like the map line side and him talking about the beach day where he found the idol. Like, I do like watching Boston Rob a lot. I feel like he's probably one of my favorite characters and one of my favorite winners in general.
Interesting. I'm excited to talk about Boston Rob one day as well. Bandit, it would be way too late for you to do this every single week. So defend one of your picks.
Where is it? My camera's messed up. There we are. It's 2:00 in the morning for me. You can't see my clock, but it's 2:00. We just hit it there. I'm gonna go with Tommy Sheehan because it feels like people are very hot and cold about him. I feel like he plays such a good game for the modern era where he is thrown into so many bad situations. Pre-merge at the final 10, Dan getting ejected from the game. Like, he loses so many individuals that are close to him, and every single time he rebounds. And I feel like in the modern era where there's so many unpredictable advantages and production twists, I feel like there's so many soft skills you can take from Tommy's game and apply them to your game if you're looking to go out and play Survivor. So that's my bit.
There we go. And I'm gonna say my take. I'll defend to the death. We talked about it last week in part 1. Chris Underwood should not be in last place. I'm just gonna, if you want to hear more of my thoughts, it's right there last week. But I really think that guy gets hated on way too much. He was just voted out of the game. So next up, new era Survivor. Chat, we've seen some guesses in there. Some of you have got correct. So let me know who you think it is out of season 41, 42, 43, and 44. Ranking 31st overall in the combined ranking. I ranked this person 36th. Flynn 21st. Gumball 24th. David 32nd. And Bandit 26th overall.
The winner of Survivor 41, Erica. All the rest are yours as well.
The first ever Canadian winner in Survivor history. Let's go. But then that's all I got. For me personally, I think I'll start with this one because I ranked Erica the lowest of everyone here today. I think this one probably was a little bit too subjective in my opinion. If I looked objectively behind the scenes through the edit of what Erica was doing, I'm sure I would have ranked her higher. My problem is I was way too excited for Survivor 41. I just started my YouTube channel going into the season. We hit we're off the pandemic, new season of Survivor. It was after Winners at War. The hype for Survivor was at an all-time high. We were at the new era. There was some monster Jeff was talking about. And then we had this. I'm sure there is more to talk about, and my co-host will defend her better. We got Bandit 26th overall. Let's start with you. Can you do a little bit of defending for the first Canadian winner? I'm having trouble doing it.
Yeah, so as we all know, I love Modern Survivor, so this was a doozy. So here's the thing. If you asked me this a year ago, I would have probably ranked Erica lower. But as you were saying, Russell, the edit was a bit misleading. We were getting more information now about how really the Survivor 41 edit tries to portray Erica as constantly being lucky. Like, Deshaun's trying to throw the challenge, and Nasir, he's just beasting all these hoops. When in reality, we're kind of getting information about how Deshaun would have probably went with Nasir, Heather, and Erica to blindside Danny or Sydney pre-merge. And then when we're getting into the merge, the show tries to present the hourglass twist as this massive saving grace for Erica because people are throwing her name out of camp. But people are throwing her name out of camp because she's not a camp. She's on a different island. And I think more than likely it would have been someone like Sydney on the bottom or another person of that minority contingent, like probably the Assay 3 that start getting targeted. I will say I think she gets a bit too much credit, the final 10. The fact she goes up to Nasir and Nasir instantly says, no, I don't want to work with you to get rid of Shanna Ricard. I think that's really bad social play with Nasir. and that she kind of just gets saved by Ricard trying to get out in a seer with an idol. But I'll let other people speak.
Flynn, you ranked Erica way too high. Say some more positive things than what Bandit hasn't already. Why is Erica in the top 21 for you? Almost in the top 20.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just kind of echo what he said and what probably everyone else will say. Like I said, the edit was misleading, And like I said, well, I mean, she was in the majority, it seemed like, on Luvu. Like, she did get lucky, if we're going to go back to that they didn't go to tribal council at all. Who knows what would have happened? Because, I mean, there was talk about her. How much of that was real, we don't know. But there was talk. So had it been like a Yase situation or Ua situation for that matter, who knows if how much control she really was in. But her merge game is very, very impressive especially at the late game. That final 8 round is so impressive where when she not only got led the flip on a Shan and a Liana, but she got the likes of Danny and a Deshawn to split the votes on Shan and Liana instead of splitting the votes on Shan and her. That's really, really impressive that they're willing to let go of Liana in case Shan did play her idol. So that's really impressive. And she kind of controlled the rest of the game from there on out. Again, our lucky moment is that yes, she wasn't in trouble at the final 5, but again, I do think Ricard wins the game. Had it not been for that immunity advantage, he more likely wins the immunity challenge. But Erica, they were sent to the island. Erica got the advantage, and because that she was barely able to beat Ricard. Again, had not been for that, Ricard most likely wins the game. So if I'm being honest, in retrospect, I probably would have had it a little bit lower. But I just kind of felt, it's kind of hard to rank her game, obviously. You kind of, with how just bad her edit is. So I was like, let's just put it right in the middle. She has a lot of great points, has her negative points there, but do we really know? So I'll just be fair and put her in the middle.
That was way too much positive things about Erica back to back. Gumball, let's get some proper sense back into the world. You ranked Erica 20. Oh, you ranked Erica 24th. That's still way too high in my opinion. Okay, I'll keep talking for a little bit. Yeah, I'll keep talking. I'll just kick all of you out for a second. My problem is, and so David, I'm gonna let you talk instead of Gumball because you ranked Erica a little bit lower. Can you talk a little bit about the casual fan of Survivor and how Xander got overhyped up in the edit? And do you think that hurts Erica's winner likeness in the Survivor community?
Yeah, I think that the perception of Erica has been very much affected by casual fans who are Xander stans. Didn't mean for that to rhyme, but I do think that unfortunately what happens with casual fans is that they sometimes drown out the voice of the really diehard fans, and that's just how it happened for Erica this season. I don't have too much to add on the Erica train because I don't feel very strongly about her either way, but I do just want to say Sydney Siegel, the star of Luvu, good friend of mine, I adore you, the true winner of season 41, wanted to give you a shout out.
There you go. Clip that. Let's put that on TikTok or something. Gumball, I think you ranked her far too high, but I'll give you a little bit of just here. Tell me what I've already heard about Erica's game. Sure, the edit was misleading. We didn't see Erica's game. Is there anything else we're missing here?
Yeah, so I think one other, so I do agree with Flynn and Bandit. I think the edit very much made her game look worse than it actually was. And I feel like I was probably low on her during the season than obviously after the fact. And I do think she probably had more control from the final 8 on, even though I think Ricard was probably in the best position to win. Obviously, I feel like Ricard was definitely the biggest jury threat by the end game. I think one other thing I should add is the final 4, when Xander won immunity and he incorrectly assessed that Erica would have lost had she not gone into fire. He felt like it was necessary to take her to the final 3, thinking that Erica would have been in such a position to where she would have needed final 4 immunity, final 4 fire making in order to win the game, when in reality, she was probably going to win already. So I think you do have to give her a bit of credit for that, in that she was able to make Xander think that, even though it was still a mistake on Xander's part.
Rapid fire question time. That's enough of the first ever Survivor Canadian winner. We are going to Flynnmasters here. And for chat, rapid fire time. For you, let's just go a yes or no answer here. This one I could answer super easily. Does it hurt Erica's game after coming off of the COVID break in Winners at War?
100%. Yeah, there's no. This is the edit. I mean, again, maybe not her fault, but I mean, she. I mean, let's be real. She is kind of an under edit or not. She is an under the radar winner, and the fact that she was under edited. This is the first edit they give their first female winner. After so long, after and the COVID break, it's just absolutely 100%.
Yes,
I'm surprised there's one no. Yeah, I was surprised there's one no in there.
There was a no in there. There was a no in there.
That.
So
that was an easy one.
I gotta be nice. I gotta be nice sometimes. Throw in some easy ones. Next up, 30th overall. I ranked this one again back with the average, so I feel good here. 33rd overall. Flynn, 34th overall. Gumball, 25th overall. We're gonna have a little debate between Gumball and David here, who ranked this winner 39th overall. So I want to see you guys fight, and I'll kick the loser out. And then Bandit, we have you 25th overall. So it's gonna be David versus Gumball and Bandit for this winner. I'm worried for who's gonna win this.
The winner of Survivor Africa.
So because it's 2 versus 1 here, we're talking about Ethan Zahn, winner of the 3rd season of Survivor Africa. If it's 2 versus 1, I think it's only fair, David. We're going to start with you here. The worst of everyone here for Ethan. Isn't your podcast that you do, Survivor Social, talking about like the friends, the nice people, the people hanging out? Isn't that what Ethan does? Correct me if I'm wrong.
He sure
Okay,
does.
keep going. Okay, go ahead. Let's hear it.
He sure does. I've actually had the pleasure of interacting with Ethan, and he is such a nice person. Unfortunately, I think that the last thing that happens before people cast their vote is final tribal council, and his final tribal council for me put a horrible taste in my mouth. So although I love him as a person, I think that the way that he answered questions, the fact that Kelly said he didn't really make an effort to get to know her very well, and the way that he answered Brandon's question was absolutely terrible. He didn't need Brandon's vote. He ended up winning anyway. I'm not saying that he didn't win. He got himself in a really great alliance with Lex and Tom. I think he played an incredible social game. And I also give him a huge credit for the fact that he pulled off the first, challenge throw to get out Silas after the tribe swap. So I give Ethan a lot of praise, but I also just think that the way he handled Final Tribal Council was absolutely terrible. And again, my ranking is very subjective and based on my personal opinion. It's not objective. Never claimed it to be. I don't expect people to agree with what I'm saying. You all are entitled to your wrong opinions. Just kidding.
No, fight it out with them. Own your rankings.
I love Ethan, but I think that his final tribal council left such a horrible taste in my mouth that I couldn't put him much higher.
So, Bandit, you have some thoughts on this guy too. And for someone who, I guess, not a fan of the modern, newer version of Survivor, I think you're going to like this guy. Ranked him 25th overall. Well, let's hear it.
Yeah, so me and Gumball
and as many digs at David as you can.
I love David. It's all good. But me and Gumball might be rehashing the same grind here. But I feel like Ethan, the first thing that he has is that he's very well liked. Like he was adored out there. He was loved by everyone. And really, when he gets into the final 4, I feel like he's pretty much locked his spot into the final 2, which is very advantageous for him. And even then, the show presents him as this very likable, under-the-radar figure, which I think he was. But we even hear from T-Bird postseason that he was a lot more aggressive than was shown on the TV screen, like around the Clarence boot. He was still willing to play the game, which I know is criticism online about him, is that he just was under the radar and he wasn't playing the game super strategically. He did have some strategy, just it was more so cut out of the edit. And yeah, I do agree that his final tribal wasn't great. It was probably one of the worst final tribal performances from a Survivor US winner. Although to give him one piece of credit, Brandon's question it put him in a bad situation anyway. So putting it on Brandon and sticking with it, even though he thought it would be the swing, he puts it on Brandon and then he gets Frank's vote. So it kind of works out in a weird way.
Ranking him the exact same. You guys must have been on the same page for this one here. Gumball 25th overall. Do you have anything to add on Ethan's Survivor winning game that Bandit didn't talk about?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, a lot of it just comes down to like our criteria, because it's like, you're right. Like he bombed Final Tribal. Let's be pretty clear about that. But I don't really assign too much weight to Final Tribal. as I feel like there aren't a lot of seasons where the game itself is decided at Final Tribal. It's kind of like in more recent seasons where it's kind of been decided, but that's a whole nother debate. I do feel like Ethan, again, good social game for the most part. Like, I do respect like him like throwing the challenge after the swap to get rid of Silas. I do knock him for wanting to take Lex to the end, as I feel like he probably loses to Lex. In fact, I'm pretty confident that he does lose to Lex. And he kind of gets lucky that Lex was feeling sick during the final immunity challenge. And then at Final Four, like, he gets kind of lucky that like Kim Johnson won that Final Four immunity, even though like Lex, I believe it was Lex that got the same answer to that question. Like, again, a whole nother thing. So I do think Ethan gets a bit lucky at the end that Kim was the one that ended up at the end next to him. And again, Final Tribal is bad. But aside from that, I feel like most of his game was good enough to like be a 25 for me.
And there's a Silas blindside as well. That was a great move.
Flynn, so me and Flynn make these notes together, and Flynn wanted to be asked this one. Let's talk about Lex and Ethan. We need to talk about Lex a little bit more here.
Yeah, and that's kind of the reason why I feel like I have him so low is because I do feel like Lex. Well, honestly, the reason why I have him so low is because he got very, very lucky. And I think one of the reasons why he got luck, and I may have, if this isn't true, I might have a little higher. But, you know, the fact that Kim Johnson, you know, this 56-year-old near grandma wins final immunity challenges, right? Because I believe, again, I could be wrong about this, but I believe that I disagree with that comment. From what I've heard is that Lex beats Ethan, and for that matter, Tom does as well. So he got very, very lucky that this almost grandma old lady just happened to win those final two immunity challenges, and that Lex was sick because he was in a losing position. He was willing to take himself in a losing position, and honestly, like Lex was, you know, being the prototypical, you would think he won. Again, if he wasn't sick, he does win that challenge, and again, Ethan loses that spot. So again, it's so you can't and I just feel like not only is he second command, not a dominant game, Lex was more out in front. And yes, to be fair, Lex also put him in bad positions too. Like, again, he got very lucky that Brandon didn't flip on Baran, because then all the Baran would have been in trouble at that flip where the Kelly goes home. So yeah, I mean, so Lex is, you can't really talk about Africa without Lex, and for that matter, all the Baran three. But I do feel like between Ethan just got very, very lucky, not a dominant game, and yeah, it is what it is. And I hate to say about him, but you know, as when looking objectively, he's just not a very dominant winner.
I feel like this is the wrong rapid fire question for Bandit, as he ranked this guy better than I thought he was going to. But chat, time for you to get involved as well. So let me know your thoughts.
You're scaring me, Russell.
Ethan, I'm sorry. I promise I don't hate you. Is Ethan one of the most boring dude winners ever in Survivor history? If not, who?
Are you saying it's me?
Yeah, you, Bandit. Let's go. 3, 2, 1, go.
Oh, see, I've been watching like the Africa Rewards recently, and he was so fun then, like playing his hacky sack with the children.
And who?
Aris wasn't super entertaining. Sorry, Flynn, I know. And then I did credit his strategic game, but also Tommy, you know, was a bit boring as well. So he's not at the bottom, but
Okay,
you know,
okay.
He's got the soccer going for him at least.
There you go. We got Tommy and Aris. Oh, we got some Earl hate here.
What?
That hurts.
I mean, I agree. He's pretty boring.
How dare you, Russell? Ethan over Aris. He's up there. So there's some controversial things going on in chat right now. This is insane.
That's what we like. Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep fighting each other.
Yeah. Keep talking to each other as it's that time. Giveaway time. So, as you know, Survivor is coming back, Survivor 45. So with that, my Survivor replica store, Idle Plays, is coming back bigger than ever with 10 puzzles, and I'm just going to play this clip. With all 4 Survivor YouTuber winner rankings, we'll be giving away a replica of the infamous 5-piece puzzle that Spencer won during Survivor Cambodia.
This is the kind of puzzle you solve in an instant, and Spencer just did!
Even though it's cool to watch these live streams afterwards, if you want a chance at winning the replica puzzle, you need to make sure to tune in to all the streams as they are live.
Only 5 pieces in this puzzle. When you get it, it will be instantly, and it will be over like that.
But if you aren't feeling lucky and want a guaranteed chance of owning the replica Survivor puzzle, make sure to check out the Idle Play Survivor 45 drop. This drop will be including 10 replica Survivor puzzles in multiple colors, and the whole thing is going live during the final Survivor YouTuber Winner Rankings podcast, September 22nd, 8:30 p.m. There you go. September 22nd, 8:30 p.m. Be there for it. It's going to be a great time. I'm sharing my screen right now so we can talk about it. Bandit, I need you to come up with our giveaway code here today.
Ooh.
Please not something crazy long like last time.
Oh goodness, I was gonna say bamboozled. Is that too long?
Probably.
How would I spell that?
Yeah.
That's a good point, actually. Let's just, you know what? Let's just go with Ethan.
Okay, I like that. Ethan, all caps. Boom. Start collecting command. Whoa. I guess because people have already said Ethan's name probably. But anyways,
That's funny.
if you comment in chat, Ethan, you have a chance of winning this 5-piece red replica Survivor puzzle. We'll be doing the giveaway for that at the very end of the stream. So again, I think you have to do it all caps, maybe not. But make sure you do Ethan in chat to have a chance at doing that. All right. There we go. That'll be fun. We got 12 entries already. That was good job, Bandit. Good job. That was a good one.
Should say that for next week though, when Ethan's gonna be on.
Yeah. Okay. So next up, this is one of the biggest, like, crazy things that came out of the Survivor YouTuber winner rankings. When I put all this averages together, I didn't believe what we got. I'm not going to spoil it, but I think you can kind of understand what I'm talking about, who these two people are going to be back to back. 29th place overall, we have Sandra from Survivor Pearl Islands, not Survivor Heroes versus Villains, Survivor Pearl Islands. I ranked Survivor Pearl Islands, Sandra, 28th overall. Flynn, 33rd overall. Gumball, 34th overall. David, 33rd overall. Bandit, 29th overall. I'm just going to play it. I already spoke.
The winner of Survivor Pearl Islands.
Sandra from Survivor Pearl Islands. Gumball, rapid fire question. We're not going to be talking about this game. There's nothing to talk about here. Gumball,
right.
Survivor Pearl Islands, rapid fire. If Heroes versus Villains never happens, is Sandra forgotten? Chat, let's go. Yes or no?
I think she would
be forgotten.
Yes. I think she'd be overshadowed by Rupert and Fairplay.
Okay. And everybody in chat, next up in 28th place overall, I ranked this person 21st. Flynn, 29th. Gumball, 37th. David, 36th. Bandit, 35th. In chat, I promise this is not fake. Somehow this is how it ended up happening. 28th overall. After Sandra coming in 29th place, this is what we have.
The winner of Survivor Heroes versus Villains, Sandra. Our first two-time Survivor winner. Does that make her the best player ever? We have everybody back here. We're going to talk about it.
Obviously, that does not make her the best ever. We've all ranked her around the 20 to 30 range here. Bandit, rapid fire question here. Who played the best in the final three? Parvati, Sandra, or Russell?
I would say Parvati.
Okay.
I know that they all have their individual flaws, but I feel like Sandra was very dependent on Russell and Parvati doing well and her failing to get them out, because then she goes to the end against the heroes and she loses. And I don't think the I told you so strategy works as much nowadays, especially. And then Russell, I mean, what was that social game? I mean, can we even call it a social game? Is that offensive to say?
It's true. If you think who the better Russell is, make sure you subscribe. But yeah, you're exactly right there. Chat, this was absolutely insane. This blew my mind when I saw this. We literally had Sandra's games ranked back to back. Let me know what game you think is better from Sandra's, Pearl Islands or Heroes versus Villains. Obviously, our average had Heroes versus Villains, barely outranked. So for my panelists here, feel free when I come to you for your question to talk about either one of the games if you specifically have something you want to say about that. But in general, I just want to talk about how you compared the Heroes versus Villains Sandra game to the Pearl Island Sandra game. Because I ranked Heroes versus Villains better. Flynn ranked Heroes versus Villains better. But the rest of you three ranked Survivor Pearl Islands as her better game. So this is going to be cool to talk about. I'm excited to see what we have to say here. So Gumball, let's start with you. Whatever you want to talk about, Sandra, you can talk about why one game is better than the other, a favorite move. This Sandra's back-to-back. What happened here?
Yeah, so again, I'm one of the people that have the Pearl Islands game above the Heroes versus Villains game. It's not even like I think both of them were like overly impressive, but I do think her Heroes versus Villains game is demonstrably worse than her Pearl Islands game, to be honest. Like, Bandit did touch upon this already, but I mean, it's not just the fact that she won Russell out at every opportunity. It's like, and like her getting to the end of Russell where she wins pretty decisively. But like, you even like go back to like earlier in the game, it's like she wasn't the majority early on. Like she was part of Boston Rob's alliance, but then that group got flipped on after Tyson voted himself out of the game. Rock got flipped on. And then really from that point on, like she was pretty much trying to get Russell out. And then you had the fact that if she succeeds in getting Russell out early in the merge, and let's say like at the final 9, let's say that, you know, she flips over to the hero side, and let's say Candace doesn't flip, and like the heroes get the numbers because of that. The heroes do not take Sandra to the end. Like they would vote her out at the first opportunity, and I feel like she loses the game. Like through her own decision, if she got her way, she loses the game. I feel like her Pearl Islands game doesn't have a mistake that large, even though I feel like she doesn't have too much control throughout a lot of that. I feel like the biggest mistake from her Pearl Islands game was her voting for fair play during the Rupert Tribal. Like, I feel like when we're comparing the two games, I feel like her Heroes versus Villains game is worse than her Pearl Islands game.
Yeah, thank you for that. I want to hear everyone's thoughts on this. But first, we need to take a little pause. Everyone in chat, please give some W's, some thank yous to Miss Go Kid M for that $2.79 Canadian dono. For luck, Ethan. So thank you so much for that donation. Everyone, make sure you're putting in chat Ethan, all caps, for a chance to win the replica Survivor puzzle. All right, David, you're up next here. Whatever you want to talk about with Sandra. We got 2 games. What do you want to say?
The only thing that I want to say about Sandra, I did rank her Pearl Islands game slightly higher. I think her Heroes versus Villains game was a little bit more about happenstance, but I do just want to point out the fact that she did win 6-1 against Lil, which is like great, but also she was going against someone who was voted out of the game, and a lot of people just didn't respect Lil. Lil, who, might I add, talked about herself in the third person at Final Tribal Council. Let's go rewatch that because it's incredibly cringe. And not only did Lil just stay out of the game for a couple days, she stayed out of the game for 8 days. And I'm not going to do the math to figure out how much 8 out of 39 is, but that's a substantial amount of time. So just based on principle, I would automatically be giving my vote to Sandra because she roughed it out for that entire time. And
quick pause. What do you think about Chris Underwood?
I did not put him last.
David, you want to stay in this chat, don't you? You want to stay in the chat.
I did not put last. I actually put actually you don't need to get into that. But
no, I think you did. Yeah, I was gonna say I think you did.
Did I? No, I'm pretty sure I didn't.
Because the scholars and Russell were, I think, the only people who didn't, and that's why it was funny they're in the majority.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure you did.
I don't think I did. I'm pretty sure I put Bob Crowley last. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. About Sandra, I just want to say that I don't think that the tail half of the game, she didn't have Rupert there to like ride his coattails because a lot of people accused her of that. I think she ended up making some moves that were decent, but again, want to emphasize, Lil talked about herself in the third person. So no matter who was up against there, doesn't matter if it was Mark the Chicken, I was giving them my vote against Lil.
Flynn?
Okay, yeah. I mean, so I disagree with Gumball. I do think she has actually 2 big, again, talking about luck, she got 2 big knocks against her Pearl Islands game, which is why I'm very, very low on her. She was going to be the first boot. Like, there was no other way around it. She was very, very close. That Mew challenge was very close. She was very, very... You talk about forgettable how she won, not come back. She just put him in a forgotten first boot in Survivor history. had they lost that challenge. And the final immunity challenge, I believe if it's literally any other final immunity challenge in Survivor history, maybe other than the Samotion, Johnny Fairplay wins. They just so happen to have a challenge that was like based for Lil, a squatting challenge. That's what she did. She did that crap on the side as like a side hustle. Just those squats all the time, and she was able to just dominate that challenge. So had it been like literally like 95% of other challenges in Survivor history, I think Johnny Fairplay wins and obviously takes Lil to the end. And Johnny Fairplay is a Survivor winner. So those are two massive knocks, along with just not being a very dominant game at all. Again, her voting for Fairplay at the final 8 was just dumb, considering it looked like it was going to be a split vote she thought going in. So that was very dumb. And Fairplay just in general kind of owned her throughout the post-merge. She was out on the loop with a lot of votes. Her Burton vote's really good, but yeah, and the reason why I'm higher on her Heroes vs. Villains game is I do think, yes, while she was playing like a losing game, I think people overstate, the final 9, like she was kind of going
She's the
for
queen.
that. But after that, she kind of was like, okay, she kind of did realize, her best chance was against Russell. So I think only like 1 or 2 rounds, she was playing really, really badly. She was playing a losing game. After that, she kind of realized she had to she should side with Russell and Parvati, and that's what she did. So that's why I'm higher in her game. But it's obviously not a dominant game, but.
All right, Bandit, give me your thoughts on the queen.
So I do want to say that I rank both her Heroes vs. Villains and Pearl Islands game relatively low, so it's kind of apples and oranges at the end of the day. I'm low on both of them, but Pearl Islands, I think the Burton blindside was probably one of her best moves that she's made. I think that gave her a lot of agency. I think that really set her up and allowed her to turn Lil against Burton. And it's quite interesting because Sandra's a contestant that it was also smart for her to go, for Russell and Parvati. She's a contestant that sometimes will make emotional moves, like when she flips over the barrel of fish because Rupert got voted out. But then people start blaming Krista, and she goes on the back of that and is able to get out Krista. And obviously in Heroes vs. Villains as well, she's able to play up animosity towards Russell and Parvati, especially at that final treble council. So she does also have her advantages in both her games, but I think her Pearl Island game is just a bit more consistent and there's a few more positives, in my opinion.
Okay. There we go. Chat, I seriously, I said it so many times, but I can't believe Sandra was ranked back to back in our rankings, and we ranked the Queen of Survivor pretty low, 29th and 28th overall. So that says a lot about the queen of the game. Next up, in 27th place overall, I'm excited to talk about this person. We got 34th for me, 32nd for Flynn, Gumball 28th, David 26th, and I think Bandit's the most excited to talk about this person for 23rd overall. I got nothing to say.
The winner of Survivor Guatemala.
I think her name's Danny. Survivor Guatemala. What a season of Survivor for sure. Gumball, I'm gonna start with you. Can you give me something to talk about here?
Oh yeah. So admittedly, I feel like her ranking here is pretty much in line with the average. I think probably the biggest issue with her game is that during the early post merge, she comes into the merge down in numbers. She starts to lose a lot of her allies until it's pretty much just her left. However, I think there are 2 main things you have to really give her a lot of credit for. One is that she had a lot of agency in the pre-merge. She was really very much aligned with the likes of Gary and Brandon and a lot of the people that were running that tribe. But then you have the end game where she aligns herself closely with Rafe, who was the leader of the majority alliance in the post-merge. He had run most of the game, and she is able to get Rafe to keep her over a lot of other people that Rafe probably wins against. She's able to get him to vote out Judd at the final 6. At the final 5, he decides to keep her over Cindy. And I think probably one of the biggest ones is at the final 4, where it's between Danny and Lydia, who was known for doing the pancake and was never winning final immunity. And Rafe decides to vote out Lydia over Danny, as Danny was able to build a final 2 with Rafe, and with him having a final 2 with Stephanie, it basically made sense for Rafe to do that. But then at Final 3, like during that long immunity challenge, that grueling immunity challenge, like Rafe basically tells Danny that she doesn't need to uphold that deal anymore. So she wins Final immunity, cuts Rafe, and wins near unanimously. I do have to give her a lot of credit for her end game, but I feel like the fact that she was out of the numbers during a lot of the post-merge before that is a big reason why she's lower on the list. But I feel like her game is somewhat impressive in my eyes.
Again, chat, I got nothing, so I'm going to pass it to Bandit, who ranked this person 23rd overall. Let's hear some more praise before we go a little more negative.
Right, okay. So Danny is a very interesting game. Like, I feel like her game, because she hit her game intensity from production, is just this massive puzzle, and all these pieces are just being thrown around and through Exapress and interviews and other information afterwards. You're slowly learning about what happens on the season. And it's like puzzle pieces are everywhere. They're under the mat, they're under the kitchen table, the dog's chewing on one, and you have to put them together. So really, I think pre-merge, I think there's a lot of actual good information about Danny, where she'd had this leadership figure for her tribe, but she was more so under the radar with it, so that she didn't have the negatives associated with the leadership trait, such as the target, the threat level, being blamed for anything negative that goes on in camp. And that allowed her to make a Final 3 deal with Brooke and Morgan. She had a Final 2 deal with Brandon, and that really helps her, particularly near the end of the pre-merge. Then she comes into the merge where she is down in numbers, and they're kind of picked off for that reason, just to retain the majority tribe. But she does a really good job at obviously making bonds with Rafe and Stephanie, which I think is very impressive, that these two strategic figures like Rafe and Stephanie are like inclined to think emotionally and just keep Danny around just because they like them. I know that Gumball kind of brought this up, but you have to think about this. At the Final 4, we have Danny Boatwright, the Danny Boatwright. You could get rid of her. And there's Lydia. And they pick Lydia that might as well be a rock and get rid of her and bring Danny to the Final 3. And I think it's just a game that the more I learn about, just the higher I put up on my rankings, because I think it's pretty consistent.
So this was the first ever captain's season in Survivor history. So David, I'm going to jump to you here next. Does that affect this game at all? Does that help Danny? Does it hurt her? Obviously, Steph makes the Final 2, so that has a huge part into it. But does that matter for Danny? Does Danny win no matter what? Or does the captain season change the game?
It helps tremendously. I think the fact that Rafe had Steph as a number the entire time helped his game tremendously. If Danny was at the end with somebody else, things would have panned out very differently. Rafe has gone on record numerous times saying that Lydia was a huge jury threat, which I'm not sure I'm convinced of, but he has said multiple
Didn't he
times.
also say that she would be likely to win Final 3 as well?
Yeah, who knows? I'm not sure I believe anything anymore.
We'll
Also, while I have the floor, I'd like to say Flynn, not correct. My last place was Ben. So
My last as well.
Wonderful. High five for that. Also, yeah, I just appreciate Guatemala in general. I have my Yasha buff. I think the turning point for Danny was the Final 7 when she purchased the advantage and the challenge at the auction, and that's when everything changed for her. But I do think that she was benefited by, yes, the captain season, like you said, and Steph and Bobby John being there. She gets a vote from Bobby John, who was always going to vote for her because they were very close, and Stephanie fumbled on answering her question and said that Bobby John should have been taken off the jury, which is a horrible response to that question. And Stephanie was also not well liked. So I think that definitely benefited Danny.
Okay. We got rapid fire question time now, chat. 40 people in here. I want 40 answers right away. This will be insane. It's a yes or no. So it's going to be a little more complicated for Flynn, but I want a yes or no from you. Is Danny, I feel bad for hating on these people, but Flynn, is Danny the most forgettable winner in Survivor history?
I mean, I know she
Yes or
came
no?
back.
No. Yes or no?
Oh, I thought for me it was more complicated. Off the top of my head, no. That's
Okay,
off the
why?
top of my head, no.
Yeah, now you can explain yourself.
I'm trying to think of some other. What's some old school winners I'm trying to think about? No, Tina. 6. Maybe Jenna. She's kind of memorable. I don't know, because I think
Yeah, let's go.
back, especially for the casual fan base, the fact that she came back is really in her favor. But I'm trying to think off the top of my head, especially because like if you ask like a casual who just watched Winners at War, I'm sure they would remember freaking Danny even more than someone memorable like a Chris Daughtry. But like as far as forgettable winner, And RS
Hey,
came back.
Ethan, what's up?
It's very, very close. If she had not come back, obviously 100% yes. But as of now, no.
I'm super excited for part 3 next week to learn how to say Ethan's channel name. I always get it wrong. So Ethan Mail. Oh, I got it right, I think. Anyways, I'm excited to talk to you next week for some more winners. She was before Winners at War. I think that's the correct answer. Before Winners at War for sure.
You're with me.
Okay. Chat. We got good news or bad news depending how you feel about the monster in the new era of Survivor. We got another new era player coming up next. Let me know who you think we're going to be talking about. I think we're going to have chat fired up for this next one. This player obviously ranked 26th overall. I ranked this person 24th. Flynn, 27th. Gumball, 33rd. David, 29th. And Bandit, 33rd. Bandit and Gumball on the same page again here. You both are wrong for this one, by the way, but here we go.
The winner of Survivor 42, Marianne. That's 5, that's enough. Here we go. Come on over, jury.
We got back-to-back Canadian winners. Let's go. Super happy about that. I'm sad I'm the only one defending Marianne's game here. I think I was just a fan of Survivor 42, and that might be kind of a reason why. So I want Gumball, let's start with you. Try and tell me why I ranked Marianne way too high.
Alrighty. So I feel like with Marianne, like I think there's three major reasons why I'm not as impressed with her game, even though I still have her like not like it's still like bottom 4th, but like on the cusp. But anyway, first up, I do have issues with her early on. Like I feel like obviously like we see her at that like first tribal that they go to between Marianne and Mariah, and she did have good relationships with Omer, but like to where she stays over Mariah. But I feel like if she gets very much benefited by the fact that Jonathan was on their tribe, like this guy that was like really dominant in like challenges in the pre-merge at least, to where they're able to get through that by only attending one tribal. Whereas I feel like if they attended another tribal, I feel like Marianne would have been in a lot of trouble. I could much see her going out in that case. I think for a lot of the post-merge before the final 6, I think she is someone that's not really in the driver's seat. I mean, she is technically in the majority, but like even then, like there was a point where she maybe could have sort of been in danger at the merge, but like she's like being looped in, but like not really in the driver's seat for a lot of it. So I feel like that's a big factor for me. And then another thing is at the final 3, she was not guaranteed to win at the very end. It was very much going to be a toss-up between her and Mike. And it's sort of funny that earlier I mentioned that final tribals don't really matter this as much in a lot of seasons. 42 is actually one of the seasons where final tribal did matter a bit, where I feel like Marianne was able to win the game at final tribal by like impressing a lot of the jury with her game, which I do give her some credit for. But I feel like when we're looking at the game as a whole, I feel like it's like not really one where she had a lot of agency for a lot of it. I think there were points where she could have gone home. And I think even with the final 3 that she got into, she needed to bank on her having a strong final tribal, but also Mike kind of bombing it, not really owning it to his game as much. So I think those are all things that make me not as impressed with Marianne. I don't think she's the worst winner in the world, but like I feel like she's one that didn't have a lot of agency for a lot of it.
Yeah. Being the expert on the social game of Survivor, I want to talk a little bit here, David, about the luck versus skill component, especially in the new era Survivor, and how that relates to Marianne here, in your opinion.
Well, I think the new era, I like to equate it to a game of Mario Party, where you just hit the dice and you hope for the best. And if you go to Ship Wheel Island, then things might happen to you. But you also, in season 42 specifically, might end up getting this amulet. But also you're like smearing blood all over your body and having to explain to Lydia why there's blood all over your body when you're in the middle of a challenge. Genuinely, I have no idea. I think Marianne is an absolutely delightful person. I'm glad that she won. I think in a lot of ways she's a meme and a lot of people didn't take her win seriously. I consider myself a Mary Stan, although I don't rank her game absolutely super high, but I think that her game was benefited by luck, because all new era games are definitely influenced by luck to some extent.
Yep. And we have Ethanamel say her game continued to get better throughout the entire season, and she was playing very well at the end, but she didn't start the game out super powerful. It took time for her to get there. You stole my question right for Flynnmasters here. Flynn, I was going to ask you, can you talk about that first half of the game versus the second half of the game a little bit more?
Yeah, well, considering obviously the first half was pretty short, it's very interesting because obviously, like, had it not been for Jonathan for that matter, just dominating challenges, had Taco gone to another tribal council, she obviously goes home. But again, like, because Jackson did all his stuff, that's the reason why she was in a bad spot to begin with. So it's very interesting. I really didn't know how to knock her game, like how much I should knock her, how lucky she got, because that's a big factor for me. When she also kind of got unlucky there, considering it was obviously Jackson and Mariah both on the bottom, and that was the majority court 4. So in general, I didn't really know. So I was kind of a little fair to her that. The reason why she's not super high for me is because, again, I don't really think she was kind of still on the bottom throughout what, until like the final 7, 6. Obviously the final 6 move, Omar, amazing move, obviously. Her holding on to the item and showing that from the jury, amazing. One of the best final tribal councils ever. Similar to Erica, she was able to get Romeo to bring her to the end and have the 2 big guys that she both beats duke it out. So all that stuff's really good at final end game. But, between not being a dominant game and, let's be real, being in some serious trouble early on, it's just kind of, when you average all that together, kind of has a below average game, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I mean, Bandit, you ranked her 33rd. So I don't know what you're going to be saying about this, but can you tell me your thoughts on that Omar move within the realm of New Era Survivor, but also in Survivor as a whole, how you rank this Omar move?
I think it's a great move for modern Survivor, and as Survivor in a whole, it's the first successful use of an extra vote advantage. And the fact that the margins were so small that it was 2-2-2, and she added her extra vote to make a 3-2-2 vote, I think it is impressive, and it's obviously the big move that she's able to cultivate a good portion of her respect for her winning game towards. Kind of like Ethanamel, my org buddy, was saying in the chat there. It took her a little while to get started in the game. She was on the bottom on her original tribe. And then the merge, she's still kind of on the bottom up until about the final 8, final 7, where she starts getting into the majority. But at the final 5, she's trying to save Lindsay, which I don't know if I really agree with, because she's good at challenges. She's got a great underdog story. She's social. She's well connected with the jury. And also she was actively trying to help her get the challenge advantage. And then I know there's some people in the call and some people that are in chat that might know what I'm talking about. I don't want to spoil anything, but in Australian Survivor 2016, we end up with a very similar final tribal to that, where the winner ends up sort of inflating their game and maybe their agency a little bit more, like Marianne does. And the other person, the winner, is sort of dependent on the other person blowing up their game, which Mike does, and he isn't able to escape the stigma of being this honorable gentleman. If he owned up to his game, he could have got 4 votes. He could have got even more votes. So that's also something to consider as well.
It's rapid fire time. This time I'm asking every single one of you the exact same question. In chat, again, yes or no. This is probably the most serious question we're going to be asking the entire time. Flynn, you're first. Do New Era wins even count with being 26 days? Yes or no?
Yes.
Bandit?
Yes.
Gumball?
Yes.
David?
Yeah.
I was hoping one of you were going to say no. Yeah, okay. I kind of think you got to put like a little asterisk beside it, like a little tidbit. It's a little bit different,
I don't think it can be entirely compared to the 39-day format, but a win's a win. You're still starving on an island.
For 26 days, not 39. Okay. Next next up, guys, we're taking a little break. We have 3 more winners we're talking about here today. Let's hear it in chat who you think these 3 winners are. If you also saw part 1, you know who we've talked about already. But it's time for some hot takes. Now, you've already had one of your takes that you defended, but let's see one that you can defend another one, I guess, if you want to, but maybe something else that you're so against, that you hate. Like, what is this doing here? And let's try and get a little bit spicy here. I know we had a fight going on earlier between Bandit and David, so Let's get the fight going. I said mine last week. I'll say the same thing. I'm gonna be boring. I'm a fan of Jam Jam. Big Jam Jam fan. Bandit, let's go with you. Let's see the spiciest of takes.
Yeah, so I saw this in episode 1, and I wasn't in episode 1, so I was replying to some comments. I know some people were a bit confused about Gabler being so close to Michelle. I had him a bit further up my list compared to Michelle because I feel like Michelle got a bit luckier down to the end stretch, such as the Joe Medevac. I feel like Gabler played a little bit more of a consistent under the radar game. He has the Ellie move, and I feel like at Final Tribal, it was very beneficial that Cassidy was constantly trying to undercut Gabler, and I think this is something that people sort of forget about in 43, is that people were actively trying to, Cassidy was trying to undercut Gabler, and he was deflecting all the criticisms, and then about halfway through that Final Tribal, he starts undercutting Cassidy to the point that she can't actively respond. He brings in about his alliance with Jesse and Cody, which isn't fully shown on the show, unfortunately. And at that point, you can start to see Cassidy's game go downhill, and he gets a lot more respect from the jury. And I think that that's a big advantage to how he won Survivor 43, which not many people talk about. And I feel like that's why he was better than Michelle in my ranking. Just want to clarify.
Gumball, I want you to get crazy here.
All right. Yeah, I was just looking through like my ranking, comparing it to the aggregate. I think we're talking about a different Tom Westman. I think Tom Westman is an overrated winner.
Ooh. Wait, one sec, guys. One sec. Okay.
All right, podcast
let's
before, right?
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna keep going here.
He's gonna be on phase 2.
Yeah.
No, he's smiling.
Keep going.
Yeah. So I know like people like really love Tom. They see him as one of the best winners, and they talk about like how he controlled Palau, how he won a lot of challenges. But I think a lot of people forget that the wheels kind of came off the train towards the end, where it's like we saw like the whole thing with Ian like starting to turn on Tom, to where like Tom started to need to win some of those challenges towards the very end, where if he doesn't win Final 3, goes home, doesn't win Final 4, probably goes home, debatably even Final 5, like he could be in some danger there. So like I feel like there's that. I think also like, people tend to overlook Ian a little bit to a degree, that people tend to see Tom as just running everything. Whereas I feel like a lot of it was sort of a partnership between like him, Ian, and to a degree, Greg as well. I feel like people tend to overlook Greg a bit. So while I think Tom is a good winner, I feel like he is in a lot of ways, I think people tend to forget certain things from his season.
Gumball, everyone's agreeing with you. I don't like how we have so many Tom haters in the chat. Yeah, I don't like that. Make sure that you're not. That's crazy. All right, David, you're next. I'm speechless about that. I'm excited to talk about Tom in maybe later today or a future video. David, give me one of your craziest hot takes.
Before I give you my hot take, I do want to agree with Gumball. I actually am
okay,
not
one sec, guys. Wait. One sec. Okay. Oh, wait. All right. So all of our Tom likers here. Wait, one sec. Bandit. There we go. Okay, let's keep going. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know correct opinions are sometimes hard to hear, but I do appreciate Tom Westman. I think he's a worthy winner in so many ways, but he's just not my favorite. I think there are flaws to his game. But my hot take is that I don't think that Adam Klein should be a unanimous winner. I think that Hannah should have gotten some votes, and maybe that's not the hottest of takes, but my vote probably wouldn't have gone to Adam.
Wow, that is the hot take in my opinion. Flynn, do you want to say another one of your hot takes if you have any, or we'll move on?
I'll just say, since we started them, I cannot believe ours is 33. That is just insane to me. That is crazy to me. I'll just say that.
You know what, Flynn? I'm sorry.
The winner of Survivor XL Live.
I think that constitutes the bullying.
So for our Canadian winners out there, you don't have to pay taxes. It's more of $1 million. And when you convert the money over, it feels good. All right, so 25th place overall. I've seen some people in chat say this person's name. You're going to be disappointed. I've ranked this person 31st. And looking at it, please don't gang up on me and Gumball here. Gumball ranked this person 27th. Flynn 18th. David 17th. And Bandit 21st overall. 3, 2, 1, let's go.
The winner of Survivor South Pacific, Sophie.
Sophie Clark. All I'm saying is Ozzy should have won that game. We'll go to you, David, first. You're shaking your head. Tell me about Sophie's game. Let's talk about that first.
Okay, this is a quick aside. So yesterday I was driving to work and I got into an accident and someone rear-ended me. And what did I do to bring my mood up? I bought a new Polu buff on eBay because I love Sophie so much. Because
are you okay? Congratulations. Wow.
Thank you. It's still in the mail. Haven't gotten it yet, but pictures to come. But I'm a huge fan of Sophie's game because she did not have to pull out all the bells and whistles. She knew that her place was to be the person to let Coach lead and make an ass out of himself. He was the cult leader. She was just the atheist who said, I'm not going to be the one to shake things up. Sophie's best move, besides winning 3 individual immunities and taking Ozzy out, which I agree, there was some luck to that. On a different day, Ozzy could have won the entire game after that. However, I think that her best move was keeping Albert in check so he didn't lose his shit, he didn't flip. And I think that her control, the same way that we called Aris the glue, I think that a lot of ways Sophie was the glue of Upolu. And she struck at Final Tribal. I know we talk and we say that Final Tribal doesn't always determine things, especially in the older era, but I definitely think it did in South Pacific. And Coach didn't take the opportunity to own his game. And Sophie came in and said, you fucked up. I was the one who prevailed. You were a cult leader that didn't really know what you were doing. And I was the one, making sense of things. So I'm a huge Sophie supporter. Can't wait to get my Upolu buff and be part of the Upolu cult. So,
Gumball, do me a favor and be the voice of reason here. David took things way too far here. Yeah, please go.
So admittedly, I feel like Sophie, sort of similar to Danny, I feel like my overall view of them maybe a bit higher than the rating reflects, but I still have some issues with Sophie's game. I think for one, you have the Michaela round, which I think really highlighted the fact that Coach was the one running the game, where in that round, Sophie did not want Michaela to go, but it was really Coach that was able to get Brandon to direct that, and really Coach was able to get their way there. So I feel like that really highlights the fact that Sophie probably didn't have as much control in the alliance for a lot of the game as some people give credit for. Also, the fact that Coach was the one to flip Cochrane at the merge, or at least get into flip on Sahai on the revote. I think that's a big factor. But I do think I guess I'm really undercutting myself here. But this was another season I think was very much decided at Final Tribal. Sophie did deliver at Final Tribal. She had an amazing Final Tribal performance, really digging into Coach, calling him a little girl and stuff. However, I do think Sophie was another person that probably didn't have the best relationships. People saw her as kind of cold at points. And even with her strong Final Tribal performance, I think if Coach had owned up to his game a bit more, to him being this cult leader using Christianity and stuff, I think that probably would be enough to get people to vote for him over Sophie, because even though they weren't happy with Coach, I think they were just looking for that one thing to really push them over the edge. And since Coach wasn't able to provide that, while Sophie was able to counter in a lot of ways, I think that was enough to really nudge them over the edge, despite the fact that Sophie didn't have the best relationships for a lot of the game. You also have the fact that towards the end game, after Ozzy came back in the game, Sophie was a bit of a target. You have the Brandon tribal, where obviously Brandon had immunity, and Brandon and Albert were going after her at that point. And it really took Coach really manipulating Brandon to giving up immunity that really was able to open it up for him to go home. At the Rick round, she also got votes there, so that's a bit fuzzy there. And then she kind of gets lucky by the fact that she wins final immunity. So I think in a lot of ways, Sophie's endgame is a bit wobbly. And I think even earlier you have the Michaela votes, which I think is a bit of a blow to her game as well. So I still think Sophie played a decent game, although there are definitely enough holes to where she's probably a bit lower on the list than I was probably expecting.
I think the perfect average of all of this here is the man where it's now past 3 a.m. for him here. The average being 25th. We had some crazy high numbers with 17th, and then we got Bandit at 21. So Bandit, give me your overall thoughts on Sophie, but also because for me personally, going into this, I feel like I ranked Sophie too low because I was worried kind of the reverse. I was thinking about her winners at War Game too much, and I didn't want that to affect my rankings. So I think because of that, I actually ranked her too low, thinking I didn't want to base it on winners at War. Did winners at War and seeing how Sophie performed there affect your rankings at all? That's what I'm trying to say. I'm tired as well, even though it's not 3 a.m.
So I think the winners at War Game, it shows her potential. And even if you're just ranking based off the sole games that they played, like South Pacific, yes, with Animal, and then you're kind of subconsciously affected by their returnee games. So someone, for example, in Panama that sees Aris might view them differently when they see them in Blood versus Water, for example. Even though they're still trying to just stay to that one game, they're seeing different environments that they're in and different strengths. But for me, I can see the good and bad with Sophie. That's why she's in the middle. I do agree that pre-merge, she was in a good position up until the Michaela vote. She does lose Michaela, which isn't integral to her, but it is an advantage that she does end up losing. The merge vote, Coach, I think, more so takes charge there and being able to flip Cochrane. But I think after that, Sophie does a very good job at presenting Coach as a figurehead of the Apollo family. And she has a lot of agency where we see people like Jim coming to her and to Albert, and he's saying, you need to make the flip, you need to make this move. And she's always the one in between the moves and that has the decision to make. And I feel like, as said previously, when we have Albert that's saying, we need to make the move, we need to do this, Sophie is like the perfect counter to that. And overall in Survivor, she's kind of the poster child of just because the move's there, you don't always need to make the big move. And we see that it's very consistent for her. She's able to get to the end. And she is targeted at the final 5 and on, but that's because Aussie wants to get her out as her biggest challenge prowess. Although, again, and I'm kind of arguing with myself at this point, the fact she is kept up until that point is because she's so good at the challenge.
The man's too tired. He's way too tired. He doesn't know what he's saying anymore. So, rapid fire question now for...
She's seen as the person that could beat Aussie.
Okay. Sorry. Rapid fire question for Sophie. Chat, let's get involved here. So, when answering this question, David, I want you to not think about Final Tribal Council and how the performance went there. Discluding Final Tribal Council, Coach Sophie.
Coach.
Thank you. I just want to put this right here. Stand Sophie.
Oh, ouch.
But that
Thank
choice was based on her overall performance. And if you take that last chunk out, that chunk matters. Every point counts.
Okay. Yeah. I just want to make sure here. Hey. I saw it. Okay, next up, we only have 2 people left, and then the stream's done. Hold on tight here, everybody. Ranked 24th overall. I was right close to the average this time, 25th overall. We have Flynn, 20th. Gumball, 23rd. David, 31st. And Bandit, 28th overall.
Wow.
Let's go to Survivor.
The winner of Survivor, David.
The winner of Survivor, David versus Goliath. One of my favorite seasons of all time. We got Nick. So I'm going to start with you here, Flynn. Can you give me overall thoughts on Nick's game, this new era kind of thing, modern type of Survivor gameplay, before we go into the nitty gritty on Nick?
Yeah, so the reason why I kind of have him as an average placement is because I feel like he played the first 2/3 of his game is really good, and the last final 9 on is very, very messy. I know another big knock, people might think he's gonna be the first boot. I don't personally think so. There's been enough information. It was definitely up in the air between him, Lyrsa, and Pat even. And as the player he was, I'm confident he would have escaped that. Which, I mean, to be fair, not a good position to be in. But after that, I mean, he was just so strong. Obviously, formed a great alliance with Christian, and they took over the David tribe. Obviously, him and Mike dominated the Jabeni tribe. And then that post-merge on, like some of the greatest play we've ever seen with him and the Davids be able to take control, coming up the minority split vote. Just amazing overall gameplay. Now, from the final 9 on, of course, he gets sloppy. He gets out of the majority, wastes a couple of idols, and was probably in trouble here and there. Now, I will say, I don't he won those 3 immunities at the end. I actually don't think he needed, only one he really needed was the final 5. And even then, as long as Allison didn't win, I think he would have survived. So the fact that he was on the outs, a lot of votes, and played such a good game and didn't really need any of those immunities, I still think he could have definitely got to the end. Is very, very impressive on his part. But still, it's still obviously a very, very messy end game from there on out. And on another big thing, had Mike, apparently Mike kind of gave up at the final. He knew he didn't need the money, and Nick kind of did. Had Mike put up a bit of more of a fight, he probably loses. So that's another kind of a knock. So yeah, like I said at the very start, I talked about his game, but very amazing first 2/3, honestly, close to 2/3. Pretty messy end game. So averages out to mid ranking for me.
Yeah, and Bandit, we're gonna go to you next here. This minority split vote. I know it's past 3 a.m. Try your best to break this down for us if you can.
So I think even before the split vote, what people don't talk about is that he formed such a good bond with Alec, and they're able to form that connection to the point that Alec says to Nick that the vote will be on Christian, and I think that's very advantageous, so that they're able to play the idol for Christian. And again, it's just executed so well, where they only tell this amount of people that they need to. They split the votes. They know Dan has an idol. They get out John, weaken the Goliaths. John was the glue for the Goliaths, and steamroll from there.
Next up. So a big thing, the only problem I have with the season overall is the theming of it. Survivor, David versus Goliath, and how you're bringing this one group up over the others. It's easy, and it's in a story. It's so easy to root for the underdog in the game. David, can we talk about that a little bit here? The jury, the final tribal council. I feel like you and Gumball are kind of going back and forth here on this final tribal council throughout all these games. Does that affect how the jury votes in the end or not? How we don't have themes in the new era, but in modern Survivor, when we had all these themes, did the theme affect how players would play and juries would vote?
I very much think it does. And I would also like to bring attention to the fact that it seems like you just have a problem with Davids in general. So you might as well just remove me from the chat right now, right?
Oh, man.
Thank you for that. But yes, I don't have a lot of thoughts on Nick that I can really share right now, but I do think that Final Tribal does play a role. My vote for Nick was, in the words of Randy Bailey, completely personal.
And Flynn, for this rapid fire question in the Final Tribal Council, Nick versus Mike.
Man.
Chat as well. Nick, Mike.
I be a judge. I gotta go, Mike. I'm sorry. I just got to.
There we go. So, chat, here we go. Last one here, number 23. The last one we got for today. Again, I've seen this person in chat many times, and I feel like people are going to be disappointed. Ranked 23rd overall. I ranked this person 27th. Flynn 30th. Gumball 30th. You guys are tied for that one. You guys are on the same page. We got David at 22nd. And then Bandit 24th overall. I'm sorry, Bandit. You can go to bed soon. We're almost there.
The winner of Survivor Philippines, Denise.
Gumball, does going to every single tribal council even matter?
It can definitely matter to a degree. I think it's definitely a selling point that you can point to, like if you manage to survive all of that. I mean, I think on some level it's obviously luck dependent, where you can have like a player like a Denise, like if she had like won like some challenges along the way, gotten a break, then maybe she doesn't have that selling point. But I think if we are taking that out, I don't think it's enough to win you the game. Like you obviously had to assess like how you actually played in each of the rounds where you went to final tribal or went to tribal council. But I think it's definitely like a selling point that you can tell the jury, sort of similar to like if you're like let's say Earl from Survivor Fiji, where it's like he talked about the fact that he started on the original Ravu and how he was like a have-not. I feel like it's like a selling point, but not necessarily something that'll win you the game.
Yeah, and another thing when talking about Denise and going to the every single tribal council kind of thing is people talk about the Matt Singh tribe, and now in Survivor there's been a phrase coined, the unintentional or the intentional Matt Singh strategy. And now that we've had New Era Survivor going for a little while now with 3 tribes back to back to back to back to back to back, David, let's talk about the Matt Singh strategy. Is it a viable strategy, especially now that we are in the new era? Yeah, that's what I want to know.
Look at Tika. I think they're a perfect example. I think if it happens in a way that's natural, I think that it does benefit you. I think that Carson especially took advantage of it. I mean, he was, put on a different tribe, and so he was able to make those connections in a way that the other 2 people on Tika were not able to. But I definitely think it benefited everybody involved to make other connections and sort of be seen as more of a free agent. Because, for example, if we're going to use 44, we have Ratu, and I'm completely blanking on the other tribe because they're so irrelevant, but the green tribe and the orange tribe were like at war, and you got the other people who are just like there, and they're not getting in the drama, so they're seen as more viable options to go either way and swing votes. So I do think it's a very viable strategy up until the most recent season that we've seen, so I don't see why it shouldn't be.
Go ahead, Gumball.
I just wanted to shout out.
Go ahead, Gumball.
Yeah, so there's this channel called Survivor Florida. They made a fantastic video like analyzing this very issue. Like I highly recommend you check it out, but like they sort of go through the data on seasons that have like 3 starting tribes or 3 primary tribes as they call it, and they sort of like explore that issue.
Interesting. I think like you can't do it intentionally, obviously, like you can't be losing challenges, especially in these smaller tribes. But if it ever happens, like you said, David, unintentionally or just naturally comes about, I think it's the best way to navigate through a 3-tribe season, especially when you have these other 2 bigger tribes fighting it out with each other. Bandit, if you have any thoughts left, give me something on Malcolm and Denise together here, this duo.
Yeah, the issue was that Denise was willing to go to the end with Malcolm, and he does beat her at the end, I think so at least, which is problematic. And it kind of is reliant on Malcolm at the final 4 kind of throwing his game for her to get to the final 3 where she's in a winning spot. But on Matt Singh, like the last tribal, I think it's very impressive that she gets Malcolm and Russell to vote for each other. In case of an idol, they're going to send each other out. Like if Russell has the idol, Malcolm beats Denise. So yeah,
there you go. Flynn, as we're talking about Denise here, can you give me an underrated move that she did?
The fact I probably just the fact that being that her archetype.
It's not even a rapid fire question. We're just talking.
I talked about. I forgot how I kind of talked about this last week, but kind of that her archetype that she was able to, you wouldn't expect, and that's what makes her and Malcolm so iconic. You wouldn't expect, someone like Malcolm and Denise to be a pair, but the fact that Malcolm was able to sort of form such a good relationship, as opposed to like a bro like Russell, or even again, originally Malcolm was with the hot girl, which you would expect, and Angie, but Denise got her, Denise was able to be his number 1 ally at the end, and that put her in control of the tribe. So the reason why I have her so low is because I feel like her post-merge game is very, very weak. Again, she played, like Bandit said, got very lucky that Malcolm didn't take her to the end at the end. Got very lucky Penna rejected the final 4 deal, but her pre-merge game, the fact that she was able to dominate given her archetype is very, very impressive. So
rapid fire. The final rapid fire of the stream. Chat, get going here. This one, you know what? I'm going to give this one to Bandit as he's falling asleep. Bandit, I want either, I'm going to spoil it. Chat, either the words skill or luck. Is there more skill or more luck involved in Denise's game?
Ooh, I'd say skill.
Skill. Okay. There you go. I think so as well. If you're surviving every single tribal, but I do think there is a lot of luck involved in her game as well. It's probably like 60-40, if anything. So it's that time. It's giveaway time. Woo, 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 woo. So here we go. If you haven't know what we're doing yet, if you use the word Ethan, you get entered to win this fun, iconic Survivor 5-piece puzzle. be like Ethan and use the code word Ethan. So because he put himself in the ring there. Let me share my screen again. Present, share screen, giveaway tool. Boom. So we got 21 people that have typed Ethan so far, but there's 42 of you in chat. That doesn't make sense to me. So as I babble along for the next couple of seconds, I better see more Ethans in chat. This was so much fun. As always, thank you everyone for being part of this. I love just chatting Survivor on a Friday night with all of you. All right, people in chat, you were too slow. 3, 2, 1. Let's do this. As always, I'm scared I'm going to be the winner.
I was talking to Ethan, so I'm in there too. So
I better not win. I hate it. Ah! Ooh, Ethan.
Ethan's gonna.
All right. Congratulations, Big Show Gunno. Everyone congratulate Big Show Gunno. Give some W's in the chat. Private message me somehow. Instagram, Discord. Find a way to message me, and I will make sure to send this to you with a little Idle Play sticker and everything like that. Guys, everyone, we did it. We got through these average rankings in this not so average Survivor podcast. I'm tired. Gumball, this was so much fun. Thank you for being part of this. What do you have in store in the near future? I know you're going crazy with Big Brother content right now.
Yeah, so like it's been a lot of fun with Big Brother, with Sari and Jared on the season. A lot of intrigue happening, especially right now with what's happening on the live feeds, but that's for another day. But yeah, with 45 now in full swing, I'm probably going to be making some content to lead it to that. Like preseason power ranking, that's sort of my thing, the power rankings. And then like during the season now, I'll just be going through it bit by bit while also doing Big Brother and Amazing Race and Survivor UK once that comes out. So a lot coming soon.
Awesome. I'm excited to see it. David, what's coming soon from the Survivor Now world? I feel like you guys are doing so much over there.
Honestly, so much that I don't even want to get into it for the sake of Bandit going to sleep soon. So I'm just going to say go check out Survivor Now and all of our other accounts and see what we have in store.
Awesome. Bandit, what do you got for us?
Same as Gumball, really. Survivor UK, maybe even Big Brother UK, Survivor 45, obviously, and then Survivor Australia will be starting up.
And more Bandit Survivor content.
Oh yes, where I so like Survivor games as well, and like more Bandit Survivor, and maybe I make a few appearances on other YouTube channels doing some weird stuff also during the night. So there's that.
There you go, Flynn. I know you don't like talking about this show that we spent 2 hours talking about. So what are you going to be talking about in the near future?
Yeah, like I said, I kind of said last week, obviously the same week that Survivor premieres, the same week that Hell's Kitchen premieres. So that's going to be an amazing week on my channel. Of course, the Tuesday of, we're going to be doing the season rankings for Hell's Kitchen with 2 former contestants, a good friend of mine. And the day before that, I'm going to be interviewing a big time Hell's Kitchen contestant beforehand. So yeah, that was the secret last week. I'm still not going to say what it is, but that's the big secret for all my Hell's Kitchen viewers. So yeah, that's going to be an epic week on my channel for sure. I can't wait.
And for me personally, I got the Idle Plays, the 10 puzzles coming. The store's going to open back up for the Survivor 45 drop, literally the day of part 4 of the live stream. So that's going to be super, super cool. I got my weekly videos and as well as my recaps coming when Survivor 45 finally comes out. Everyone, this was so awesome, chat. You are all legends for doing this, and peace.